Hey Terry.
Yeah.
Are you excited?
Let's say apprehensive. No, it should be fine. It should be fine. And, yeah, we're just about, well, we're starting the process. We're starting the process of leaving.
We've just left Mindelo on our expected 17-day passage across to St. Lucia in the Caribbean. There's some decent winds forecast right now and a moderate to rough swell, so fingers crossed it's not too harsh on us and that we have a relatively comfortable passage to start the journey.
Boat and crew are in great shape. It's good having a few days here in Cape Verde to iron out a few problems, but aside from something drastically breaking, we should be fine. Weather looks good, a little bit rough, but good winds. We set a pretty cracking pace straight out the dock yesterday. I think we did 154 nautical miles in our first 24-hour period, and now I just want to go faster. We spent a lot of today at 8 knots, 7.5 knots. Things have slowed down just a tad now, and the sea state has calmed down considerably. So the question on everyone's lips is whether we're in for another rough night, and this is just the calm before the evening shift, or if we're seeing a change in the weather system here.
Day 3 of our passage to the Caribbean. We've been on the water for 2 nights. We have travelled 226 nautical miles and have 1,820 nautical miles to go. Today's looking a little bit more smooth, a bit more calm, which is lovely, and some stronger winds forecast for tomorrow and the next day.
Today's sailing is like what you'd hope to find in a charter boat magazine. It's really beautiful. No one around us, really calm seas.
After sunrise on day 4, currently got just under 10 knots, so hopefully this will pick up. The weather forecast said today was supposed to be quite rough with a lot of wind, so I'm going to assume that it will.
It's coming up to 10 o'clock and we're surrounded by dark clouds, well, except for behind us. So the boat's getting a good wash at the moment and we're all cooped inside for the first time of our journey. It's a rainy day today, so we thought we'd make pancakes and drink red wine and sit in front of a fire and watch DVDs. At least we can make pancakes.
Today is day 5 of the passage. Yesterday we had our first encounter with tropical squalls. So they hit us for most of the day. The first one that we had we were super prepared for and didn't really get much impact except for some rain. But the next one that hit came with 35 knots, so we were rushing around to pull down our Jenica, Big Bluey, before it got damaged. There's strong winds forecast for the next 2 days as well. Last time wasn't quite as bad as we were expecting, but still pretty strong, and also more squalls.
Day 5. I think it's day 4, but we're going by calendar days. So it's our 5th calendar day since leaving. Today's Friday, we left on Monday. That's 5 days. Not much really to talk about. We just keep going in the same direction and doing the same shit. Eating a lot of food, reading books, trying to catch up on sleep during the day because we don't get much sleep at night. We caught our first fish today. It was a fish about this big. I think it's called a dolphin or a dorado fish. Even though it was this big, we threw it back. We still have plenty of tuna left over from the fish we caught on the way to Cape Verde, but it's good to know that there's fish out here and hopefully we catch something a bit bigger. Well, we've got a pretty whiteboard here, which you can see, and I don't have to say anything because it's all on the whiteboard. It's taken us 5 24-hour periods or 6 days to make a third of our distance, 700 nautical miles. So if we're constant on this speed, we'll be there in another 10 days, which is exciting. We're all going a bit crazy on board.
How are your dishwashing skills going?
It's a 4-point purchase, 2 feet and 2 knees.
We just caught our third dorado or dolphin fish. We were going to throw this one back like the other two, but the hook went through its jaw and into its eye, so we thought the poor bugger might not survive, so we killed it. I'm just looking at how the forecast compares with reality, and then just seeing what sort of evening we'll be in for. We've had a really rough few days. Actually, I think every day's been rough with the exception of one day sort of stuck, a half day stuck in between there. But thankfully it looks like all of the strong wind is about to leave us. The yellow turns into green. Just look at the green, happy green. 13.5 knots, that would be nice. We've been used to 30. Good morning. I haven't done one of these for a while, so I thought I would take the opportunity before the sun rises to do a quick download of my thoughts. The weather's calmed considerably, as you can see behind me. We have a really great following sea, following winds, and we're flying the Jenica and the Genoa. The only reason we're running the batteries is because, the engines, is because the batteries are a bit low on charge. One of the downsides of having to run the engines, very tired this morning. One of the downsides of having to run the autopilot 24 hours a day is that it takes a lot of power to do so. So unfortunately we're finding we have to run the engines for a couple of hours every day. I got great news today just via email that a really good friend of mine, Max, is going to join us in Panama for the Pacific crossings. I'm starting to imagine what that's going to be like, because I now have a feeling of what a proper ocean crossing is going to be like, and I think Max is going to enjoy it a lot, so very much looking forward to his company.
Last night we reached the halfway point of our trip across the Atlantic crossing. Very exciting. We've done half of the 2,100 nautical miles to cross to the Caribbean. So today's a bit of a celebration day. The most exciting thing that happens today is we all get to have our one shower of the trip. So I've just had mine. So we're going to maybe have a couple of drinks later. So we've ended up being a dry boat, ironically. Other passages that we've done, we've usually had a drink or two at sunset, but this one's been so rocky that we haven't really wanted to have any drinks. Do you want to say anything about the halfway day, Chris?
I guess the second half of a journey is always easier than the first because it always appears to go more quickly. Fishing is hard. I lost my last lure today, this morning actually, because the crimp on the lure broke. So I only have 2 lures left, which were given to me by a good friend, Sean, and I'm reluctant. Actually, I don't want to use those until we get to the Pacific. The water's apparently 28 degrees, which sounds like a good temperature to jump in and have a swim. We're doing about 5 knots, so I expect there's going to be quite a bit of tension on the rope, and who knows, anyway. That is too fast. It's a big ocean out here. We're like 1,000 nautical miles from pretty much anything in any direction, and amazingly we keep running into this boat behind us, which was sort of amusing during the day, but at night I think I'd rather have a bit more distance between ourselves and our neighbour. It's the halfway party!
Woo!
Let's just make the other half now. Cheers! Ching!
Today is day 11 of our passage over to the Caribbean. We continue to have lovely weather, which is a nice change from the first week of the trip. So pretty calm seas, lightish winds around sort of 20 knots, which means we can get a good speed around 6 knots. We're now 2/3 of the way there, so we've got about 700 nautical miles left from the 2,100, and we are still forecasting to arrive on Boxing Day. Put some Christmas decorations up, but they're a bit sparse because I was only allowed to buy 3 pieces of tinsel. So you can see one behind me, and there's a couple of other ones around the boat.
We're 4 days out and we had beautiful weather for the last couple of days, and it's turned once again to rather short choppy seas and squally weather. So it looks like bad weather might bookend our passage to the Caribbean. Upside is that we've been able to sail the whole way there with the exception of needing to run the motors for the batteries, but yeah, we've put on close to 2,000 nautical miles for only 30 odd hours of running the engine.
Today is day 13. Only 3 sleeps to go till we arrive in St. Lucia. Can't wait. We've got just under 400 nautical miles to go, which we expect to finish for arrival on Boxing Day. We're going to hold off our Christmas Day celebrations in full until Boxing Day so we can enjoy them when we're actually at the marina rather than rocking around at sea. One of the cool things that we've been seeing for the last week out on the ocean is these long trails of seagrass, and underneath them occasionally you see giant dorado fish, also called mahi-mahi, which are brilliant yellow fluoro sort of coloured fish. It's really cool. We haven't actually been able to catch any more of these because all of our lures were eaten by fish, but it's really nice seeing them going past and actually not hurting them. Today is Christmas Eve, very exciting. I've had a pretty challenging 24 hours with quite a few squalls. Up last night with some thunderstorms, a bit of lightning, so that was a little daunting, and we're just waiting for the first squall of the day, which is coming up just behind me. I've just finished reading Ernest Hemingway's Old Man and the Sea, and one of the things about the book is the old man fisherman has the flying fish as his best friend. And one of the things that's been really cool about this trip is the amount of flying fish we've seen. We've seen about, I reckon, 1,000 flying fish. Sometimes they end up on our boat, we are able to rescue them. Sometimes, sadly, they end up like this little fellow here, which is a little bit dead and stiff. But they're pretty cool, and it's been awesome to watch them flying around.
Christmas pancakes. Oh. They're more like Christmas crepes.
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas.
This is what we did on the Atlantic Passage. We lay around, did nothing, and the boat sailed itself. Cheers!
We have 25 nautical miles to go. We're flying along at around 8 knots. Boat's done well, crew's done really well. Looking forward to getting in, getting the boat secured to a mooring and cracking open a very cold beer.